I think we have enough alcohol to make the Bible suck a little
Cheers.
less. Today we're reading through Genesis chapter 37. You excited? I'm excited. All right, that's good. That's potent portable. Oh, wow. As you may notice, besides the drink, my voice is a little bit shittier than usual. Thank you, my children. I have their cold. It's nothing too dangerous, nothing too major, but it does impair the angelic quality of my voice. Somehow, we will all persevere. It's either that or I have some kind of esophageal cancer, some kind of throat cancer, the kind that killed Hitchens. Whenever I get sick, I'm at an age right now that I'm thinking, oh, it could be cancer, right? My temperature dipped a couple of nights ago from my usual robust 98.4 to a 96. And that caused some kind of hypochondriac gene going off in my head. And so I was telling my girlfriend to make sure to call an ambulance to get me to an ER in case it was necessary because, if she drives me to the ER, then who the hell knows how long I'm going to have to wait. And I made sure she knew where my medical card is, which of course it's, my medical insurance card is in my wallet. And then I had to tell her about my CPAP machine and its settings. This is all just because my temperature dipped 2 degrees. Of course, I took a hot shower, bundled up, turned on the electric blanket to 11, and I was fine afterwards. But so I doubt it's throat cancer. I think it's more than likely a cold. Let's talk about Genesis chapter 37. Genesis chapter 37 introduces us to Joseph, the one with the cloak, with a coat of many colors, that guy. Turns out he's kind of a wanker. You shouldn't be surprised the Old Testament is full of wankers. Joseph is just one wanker in that lot. So let's go on to Genesis chapter 37. Joseph's dreams. Genesis 37. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to the dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." Now we have to assume that Joseph isn't a complete idiot, right? He knows, probably suspects that his brothers hate him, and so he's just fucking around with them and telling them about the dream he may or may not have about the sheaves bowing down to his sheaf. And he's just screwing with his brothers, probably. That's what I'm thinking, right? And you have to think about what kind of narcissist goes around telling people, hey, I had this dream that I'm better than you. I had this dream that not only am I better than you, but I'm better than all of your stuff. And you are going to bow down to me. I think that has some kind of narcissistic personality disorder written all over it. His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Joseph, sold by his brothers. Now his brothers had come to graze their father's flocks near Shechem. You know, the place where they killed all those dudes a chapter or two ago. And Israel said to Joseph, "As you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them." "Very well," he replied. So he said to him, "Go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me." Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, "What are you looking for?" He replied, "I am looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flocks?" "They have moved on from here," the man answered. "I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. "Let's not take his life," he said. "Don't shed any blood. Throw him into this cistern," a well, "here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him." Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take him back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, not the ornate robe he was wearing, and they threw him into the cistern. And the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites." And not, when you're selling slaves all the time and killing folk and getting new slaves, why not sell one of your kin as a slave, right? That's not a bad idea. "Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." His brothers agreed. So when the Midianite merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites, who took him to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't there. Where can I turn now?" Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." He recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on a sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All of his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "No," he said, "I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave." So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold Joseph in Egypt to Potiphar, one of the Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. And so ends today's reading of the good book. I don't know. I don't like Joseph. He seems kind of mouthy. He seems to be buying his own press. So I guess chapter 38, we're going to see how this all shakes down. What's going to happen to Joseph? He's now a slave. But is the watchful eye of Yahweh upon him? He did survive being thrown into a dry well. That's going to mean something. So this is what the Bible's telling us. If you attempt to kill your brother, throw him into a dry well, and then sell him into slavery to a foreign power. Hell, just selling him into slavery. Someday you will be rewarded by God. Because all these guys, all these brothers of Joseph, they end up being the founders of the tribes of Israel. You had it right there. Judah, Reuben, the whole lot of them. Just willing to sell their brother down the river. Okay, so his brother was mouthy and a pain in the ass. So what? There's always one in the group, right? There's always one in the family. You don't throw him in a fucking dry well. Probably. Hey, thanks for watching. Please upvote. Please comment. I had a lot of fun. Maybe got a little drunk while doing this. Thanks again. Bye.